All right, I think we're going to get started, Angela, if you don't mind. It's 10 o'clock and we still have folks coming on, but they can certainly join us. We want to be mindful of everyone's time. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Donadio. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Association of Counties, and we are pleased to present to you. I think this is the second in our series of free virtual workshops for public officials across the state of New Jersey. This one we will hear from two leaders in the planning community about an update on the New Jersey State Development and Redevelopment Plan. Just a couple of housekeeping items. If you have a question throughout the course of the presentation, please put them in the Q&A, which is on the bottom of your screen. The chat box, if you could leave that open for the panelists in case we need to communicate with each other, that would be great. And we'll do our best to answer any questions as we make our way through the presentation. This is being recorded. It will be available on our website, hopefully by the end of the day today. And we will also make sure that we send it to everyone on this call so you can share it with your colleagues in case they couldn't make it. I know there were a couple of folks who had conflicting schedules, but we'll again make sure to make that available for them. So I also always have to take a minute to thank Angela Wolf, who does a fantastic job in recording and managing all of our video presentations. She just opened up a brand new studio too in Philadelphia. So if you have any media type of needs, I couldn't recommend Angela more. She's fantastic. So with that, I am very pleased to introduce our two speakers today. I'm very grateful that they took the time out of their very busy schedules to be here today. The first is Donna Rendeiro, who is, I'm sure you all know, who has had a long and illustrious career in planning, was an acting executive director for the Office of Smart Growth, the director of community planning for the New Jersey Redevelopment Authority, the chief of administration for the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency, and now is the executive director for the State Planning Commission. So welcome, Donna, and we're going to have you kick it off, but I'm going to introduce my planner in Somerset County, who I'm grateful to have as a planner because they've done some amazing things in Somerville, downtown Somerville, and the county itself. Walter Rannigan has had just a long and outstanding career in planning. He's actively involved in business and economic development in Somerset County. He's been principal transportation planner with the county and also a supervising planner before now ascending to being the director of planning division for, in fact, Somerset County. So, Walter, thank you again for being here today. It's always great to see you. And with that, I will stop talking and turn it over to Donna and Walter. So thank you.
Thank you, John. The Business Action Center is where we live in the Department of State. We are the administrative arm to the State Planning Commission, and our office is the Office of State Planning. So on behalf of the Lieutenant Governor, Tahisha Way, and Melanie Willoughby, who's the Executive Director of the Business Action Center, I want to say thank you for hearing us. If for those of you that are not familiar with the Business Action Center, we provide technical assistance to businesses in New Jersey, mostly small businesses and mid-sized businesses, but we also provide technical assistance in our office to municipalities. We have a number of different offices to assist small businesses to relocate, to expand, to promote exports, and we have a cannabis training academy as well for those stakeholders that are interested in getting into the cannabis industry. But we are here today to talk about the state plan and what our office is about and what the state plan is about. So the State Planning Act is what enables the State Development and Redevelopment Plan, and it is designed to represent a balance, and that's really a really important term here. It's a balance of development and conservation objectives. So rightfully so, DEP's first responsibility is environmental protection. EDA's first responsibility is economic growth. DOT's first priority is to ensure that we have roads and infrastructure that are safe and in good working order. But our goal at the Office of Planning Advocacy and the State Planning Commission is to balance all of those. Sometimes could be competing first objectives, but we're required to balance all of those goals. But the state plan is not regulatory. We can't overrule, we can't negate, or we can't interfere with existing plans or regulations in communities, but it is intended to provide guidance and foster collaboration. State agencies implement the plan through their investment priorities and rules, and local governments implement it through their own planning objectives. So we have most municipalities around the state want to do the right thing, but sometimes they don't have the resources or the technical knowledge to do so. So that's one of our goals, is to bring state agencies to the table. I always say I can't speak for our state agencies, but I am required to bring them to the table. But municipalities can tap us for technical resources, and we work very closely with the counties. The process for the state plan is going to end up with 4 documents. One is the plan document, and I'll talk a little bit about each one of these. The plan document identifies goals. The current plan is from 2001, and it identified 8 goals, and they're basically things like protecting the environment, providing economic development opportunities, providing affordable housing at appropriate locations, and a number of other. There are 8 different goals, but those they're all around those types of topics. We have to do an infrastructure needs assessment, which not only identifies what the infrastructure needs are throughout New Jersey today, but also through the time horizon of 2050, which is the plan that we're developing now. That's the time horizon. We have to do an impact assessment, and that impact assessment identifies what would happen if we didn't have a plan. What would New Jersey look like? We haven't started that process yet, but the initial indications are showing that most of the building permits are being issued in areas where the state plan identifies for growth and development, and most conservation efforts are being completed in areas where the state plan identifies areas for conservation. And then we have a state plan policy map and a mapping protocol. And frankly, this is the most controversial piece, but I think we've developed a way in this plan to make it less prescriptive and more collaborative and informative. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And the state plan policy map is really just a pictorial and spatial image of what those policies reflect. Stakeholder engagement is critical. For the last 6 months of 2023, we reached out to, frankly, anybody who would listen to me, had sessions at the League, had sessions, individual webinars, reached out to a number of different stakeholder groups. We did 8 webinars. We basically reached out to and reached over 1,100 people. We continue that outreach into this year. While we did do a lot of outreach, frankly, the audiences that we reached were mostly white, and we didn't reach a lot of the underserved communities. So we're going through an effort now. We had an outreach and a stakeholder engagement session in the Hindu Baptist Temple in Robbinsville, and we were just in South Jersey. We were in Millville on Monday evening. We will be at William Patterson University, I believe it's next week, to make sure, first of all, we hear from the youth, because frankly, I'm not going to be here in 2050, but the youth will. And so we need their input as well. And that's all outside of the required public hearings that we have to have. And I'll go through the schedule in a minute, but we are required to have a public hearing in each of the 21 counties within 45 days. And that has to happen after the preliminary plan is issued. Once we go through the cross-acceptance process, which we'll hear about in a minute, then we have to incorporate and create a final draft plan and hold another 6 public hearings. So here's what the state plan policy map looks like. It's a geographic application. If you'll notice, the red areas are what we call planning areas 1 and 2, and that's the red and the light pink areas, and that's the urban communities, the metropolitan and suburban communities that we've identified, and I kind of call that sort of the state plan sash. We have maps in our office that date back to 1934, and it looks very similar. You have the environmentally sensitive areas of the highlands and the pinelands and the meadowlands, but there's that same industrial sash that goes from the Newarks and the Jersey cities down to Camden. So things haven't changed that much. We have developed a lot more since then. Excuse me, but that urban corridor still remains. The state plan map that we're proposing in the updated plan is largely staying the same. The baseline planning areas are not changing unless there's been some development patterns that no longer qualify under the definitions of their previous planning area determination, and we will determine that during cross acceptance. We're proposing adding a screening tool to further refine where areas are suitable for development and where the areas are suitable for conservation per the plan. We are identifying point system. It's basically a point system that gives you positive points for, and the focus is going to be on redevelopment, where there is currently infrastructure, so that we can prevent development in the areas that are, so our developable areas are quite, is much smaller than it has been in the past. The current estimates are somewhere under 300,000 acres are still developable. So the focus is really going to be on redevelopment. And so point system, positive points are going to come out when you talk about things like sewer service area. Is it in a redevelopment area, or is it in an area that has infrastructure? Is it a place where you're near public transportation? These will all add points, and there are a number of factors that we're including in that. Is it a walkable community? But we're also going to be taking away points if it's in, for example, floodplains. We do not want to promote residential development, particularly where you're in vulnerable areas, where it's going to be flooded in 50 years, where there are steep slopes, where there's threatened and endangered species. And then those points are going to add up to be on a sort of a transect. And if you're on one side of the transect and you have a high number of points for development, then that's an area that the state plan is going to be considering suitable for development. If you're on the completely other end of the transect, that's where the state plan is going to promote conservation. But we believe the vast majority of sites are going to locate kind of in the middle. And we will be providing information, that matrix will be providing information for a municipality to look and say, all right, this is in a floodplain. So maybe if we cut the floodplain out, the point scores will go up. And it'll give information, and it'll give a reason to have a conversation, and where we're going to be providing information so that we can work collaboratively to make sure that development opportunities exist throughout the state. It's a screening tool. It doesn't encompass every factor we can possibly consider. And environmental factors can be considered for change, so that, for example, if you're losing points on threatened and endangered species, for example, a habitat suitability determination can be done to help negate some of those points. But there are a lot of additional factors that we want to consider. So just keep in mind, it's a screening tool. It's not a be-all to end-all. It's not something that's hard and fast, but it's something to help municipalities screen to identify appropriate areas for both development and conservation. And this is kind of what I just mentioned. If the scores fall between the high end, it's suitable for development or redevelopment. On the low end, it's suitable for conservation. But my guess is that most places are going to fall between that 1 and 85 points. And your planners will be seeing a lot of this detail on Friday at the County Planners Association meeting, and we're going to walk through this process in a lot of detail with the county planners, as well as during cross acceptance. So when you're in an area that's suitable for development, we want to promote smart growth initiatives, things that enhance public safety, that identify mixed use, that talk about compact design and walkability. We're talking about green design principles, and we want to be equitable and environmentally just. So for the timeline, now I'm going to provide some timelines. I'm going to disclaim a little bit here. We are hoping to get in front of the commission, the State Planning Commission, an approval for the preliminary plan on May 1. We don't yet have a final document yet, so I can't guarantee it will be May 1, but we are aiming for those dates. But I'm just going to use that date for just to illustrate the timeline. So you all have received a letter from our office in mid-January that said we're formally introducing the formal process. That notice needs to be sent to counties, municipalities, interested parties, state governments, and some federal partners as well, at least 60 days prior to the issuance of the preliminary plan. We're hoping to get the plan approved by the commission on May 1, and then we will publish it on May 6, which is the following Monday. It's possible we can do it a little bit sooner, but that gives us a little breathing room in the event we have to make any changes between May 1 and May 6. Then we have to wait 45 days. This is according to the rules. But during these 45 days, we need the counties. Now, the legislation envisions that the counties will be the negotiating entity to represent their counties. We strongly encourage that the counties utilize that role, because it's important for the counties to have a voice. I can't tell you how important it is for the counties to play a role here, because I really think in many cases they're an untapped resource. They're our connection to the municipalities, and we really believe that the counties play such a huge role here that I strongly discourage waiving that right, but you have that ability to do that. We would need within that 45 days. And by the way, your planning staff has all of this information. We've been working with them for the last several months, so they might have talked to you about it, but they're well aware of the schedule. We would need the counties to pass a resolution, either authorizing participation as a negotiating entity or a notice of waiver. I've already received notices of participation from 2 counties, and I know of at least 4 or 5 that have it in process. Also, what we need within that 45 days is a work plan from your planning staff to say, how are you going to go about it? And we have a document called a cross-acceptance manual that has the criteria in it, but it really just helps us determine kind of like the going forward work plan, so that we can adjust our schedule to make sure we can accommodate your schedule. The notice of participation of waiver is a resolution. If you failed to transmit a notice of participation or waiver, the State Planning Commission will have to designate an alternate negotiating entity for the cross-acceptance process. And like I said, we are really encouraging you to participate. There's also a provision in the rules that allows for intergovernmental agreements where you can do a combined cross-acceptance process with a neighboring county if you so choose to. For the counties that are in the Highlands area, for municipalities that are fully conforming with the Highlands master plan, we are encouraging the Highlands to be the negotiating entity, but that can, if a municipality would rather the county be the participating negotiating entity, then they can just send us a letter requesting that. Then this commission has to hold public hearings in conjunction with the counties. So no sooner than 45 days after that publication, and no later than 90 days after the preliminary plan is published, we have to hold a public hearing in 21 counties. So that means we have between July 8th and September 10th to hold 21 public hearings. We have been working with your county planning staffs to identify locations as well as dates, and we have much of that at least drafted. We're not going to finalize it till we're sure we can get that approval on May 1. And then we want to talk about like locations, stakeholders who should be invited. We always encourage representatives from the counties to be participating and to be part of this process. This is just what we ask for in order to develop it. When do you want it? If you have any blackout dates. So for example, if you have a special event going on in your county and you want us to avoid that date, we'll do that. Do you prefer mornings, afternoons, or evenings for your public hearings? We want to accommodate you as much as we can. So we created a Gantt chart so that the county staffs can at least help begin to prepare. And so this is just as an example. So let's say right now your first public hearing would be, or the State Planning Commission hearing would be, pick a date, June 26th. We need to know what that information is by May 2nd, because we have to have a legal notice in the paper by May 13th. Now, we were originally intending on having the commission approve the plan on April 3rd. We were not ready for that yet. This list and these dates are going to be updated. And it talks about each of the steps that everyone has to do. These start dates are just sort of placeholders, and many of our counties have started already with reviewing some of the municipal plans. We've provided assistance in the way of either interns that we've provided to many counties, or if you're in the DVRPC territory, DVRPC has funded a consultant for their 4 counties, and we may be able to have additional consultant funding to help counties, because we know that this is an effort and we're trying as hard as we can to give you as much resources as we can. So the way this begins is the counties are to hold municipal meetings as working sessions to identify the areas of agreements and disagreements with the state plan that will be coming out, and to review the mapping protocols. Those municipal meetings can be structured to fit your needs. So what will work in one county may work differently in a different county. You can either have individual municipal meetings, you can have group meetings, you can have 1 or 2 meetings for all of your counties. Everything is going to depend on what meets your needs, because we know that every county does things differently. So we try really hard to not be too prescriptive, to allow these meetings to go as is most convenient for you. As I'm willing to listen to any accommodation you'd like, as long as it's in compliance with the rules. And the end product of these meetings are going to result in what we call a CART, which is the cross-acceptance response template. And that template is given to the planning staffs. They have that in the cross-acceptance manual. We have simplified it from the previously required hard copy that we used to do. I think the thing that's going to make this process a bit easier is that we have technology now that we did not have in 2001 when the last plan was updated. So we're taking advantage of that technology. The template, we have a website called publicinput.com/NJAC state plan. On there are timeline trainings, mapping trainings. It's an online mapping tool. It has the recordings of when I talked about the webinars. Those recordings are there if you're interested in that as well. Municipal resolution is really only necessary if the municipality is not satisfied by the county submission, and if the negotiating entity, hopefully the county, does not file a cross-acceptance response template, a municipality may file a separate report. And this is just another example, the next step in what I just talked about in terms of the Gantt chart. So once the negotiating entity has completed a draft of their response template, they need to hold a public meeting to have that CART adopted and approved. It doesn't have to be a special meeting unless you want it to be. But it can be part of a regularly scheduled public meeting, and as long as it's identified as a separate item. The draft CART is due to OPA no later than 30 days after that public meeting. But you can submit it early. It's a draft. It's only going to help us identify what our next steps is and how we have to develop that timeline. But the final response template is due to us 45 days after your public meeting where it's approved. If you can't make that deadline, we would certainly consider an extension, and we want to work with you collaboratively on it so that we can make this process as I'll call it as painless as possible. And again, this is just the next section in the Gantt chart that talks about that. Just checking my time. And then once we get that, once we get all of the cross-acceptance response templates, we will negotiate with the counties. There are going to be items, I mean, obviously we don't need to talk about the things we agree with, but the things that we disagree with, there's going to be items that we're going to be able to negotiate. There's also going to be items that we're going to look at and we're going to say, well, we may never agree with it. So I don't think anybody can assume that 563 municipalities, 21 counties, and 17 state agencies are going to agree 100%. But the way the rules are written, it says that we have to come to the highest level of consistency that we can. And we will work very, very hard to get to that point. But once those negotiations are completed, we will include whatever is appropriate into a final draft plan. We will complete the infrastructure needs assessment and the impact assessment. We then have to hold 6 more public hearings. And then at that point, the commission can consider adopting the final plan. So the one thing that we can do is, like I said, we have 45 days to do all the public hearings. We will start that cross-acceptance process and the negotiations immediately following those public hearings, the State Planning Commission public hearings, while we're still continuing to have those public hearings in those counties that are scheduled later on. So that's a very, very brief run through. I know you may have 1,000 questions, but your planning staff has been very much involved in this. And so what I would like to do is, I don't know, John, do you want to do questions now? Or Walter, I think, is a great planning partner in Somerset County. He's going to talk to you about how he's utilized the state plan to do their county planning, and then talk about how he's approaching this process. So I don't know if you want to wait, John, until Walter's presentation for questions.
Well, we have one that maybe we can answer relatively easy, if you don't mind. And that question is, will the updated map highlight the changes from the 2021 map?
Right, going into cross-acceptance, it's going to look the same. We're not changing the planning areas at all going into it, but during the cross-acceptance process, the counties and the municipalities will identify areas that they would like to see changed, that might, based on previous development patterns that have happened, if based on those previous development patterns, if they have if that area no longer fits the definition of a planning area, that's where we will consider those changes. So right now, it's going to be as is, but during cross-acceptance, we will look towards amending that based on what we've seen in the past and based on requests from counties and or municipalities. Keep in mind, though, that we've added 2 additional goals to the plan, and one is on equity and one is on climate change. We need to pay a lot more attention to vulnerable areas, flooding, sea level rise, that we hadn't had in the past. So I think the mapping protocol that you'll start seeing details on shortly will start identifying, will more fine-tune what a planning area definition is. So for example, a place like Hoboken, who is technically a planning area 1, has flooding concerns. And so we would then take this mapping protocol and that will kind of layer on top. It's not going to be part of the map. It will be separate because it'll be easier to update based on different factors if it's not part of the map. But utilizing that screening tool will help identify areas that you might want to change. And we will do that during cross acceptance. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that's great. And we can turn it over to Walter. And I'll just add again that this presentation, yes, will in fact be available later today or tomorrow on our website. And we are also going to email to everyone who's participating in the session today. So you'll get a chance to, if you missed something or you have a question, and I'm sure their contact information for both Donna and Walter. If it's not on the PowerPoint, we'll make sure to make that available in case you have any questions.
Absolutely.
So with that, Mr. Lane, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Can everyone see my slide? Everyone is seeing my first slide?
Yep.
All right, perfect. So good morning, I'm Walt Lane. I am the Director of Planning at Somerset County. I've been here since 1997. I started as an intern in 1997. And my actually first assignment as an intern was working on the cross acceptance process for the state plan at that time. So I've had the pleasure of and the honor of serving as the director since July of 2014. And a lot of the county has a long history of being supporters of regional planning, supporting of the state planning process, and really embedded it in a lot of our work. So this is our mission statement. I'm not going to read it, but it really aligns with a lot of the concepts that are in the state development and redevelopment plan, and really builds on the county's culture of collaboration. We work very closely with our municipalities and our other planning partners to kind of align our planning work, look at regional solutions for the issues that we're facing, and really build off the great working relationships that we have with our planning partners. So in 1987, we adopted the county's master plan land use management map, and it was really informed with a lot of the concepts in the state development and redevelopment plan. So we identified a regional center, which, regional centers are one of the types of centers that are in the state development redevelopment plan. We had, corridor development areas, growth management areas that are consistent with, planning areas 1 and 2 of the state plan, and as well as our community settlement and rural preservation and open space preservation. So we targeted those areas, working with our towns, and developed this land use map to help guide the county's decisions for planning efforts, as well as investments that the county would be making in investments in open space, farmland preservation, historic preservation, our roads and our infrastructure as well. So when in the mid 2010 or 2014, we adopted the county's master plan, our new county investment framework map, which superseded that 1987 map, and really just built off a lot of the concepts that were in at the time, the draft state strategic plan, which was at that time an effort to update the state development redevelopment plan. Unfortunately, the state strategic plan was never adopted, but we moved forward with our planning work and created this map. So the idea was we identified our priority growth investment areas. Those are the purple areas on the map. A lot of those were centers or identified as centers or development areas in the state development redevelopment plan. We have our priority preservation investment areas, and those are the green areas on the map. The darker green are lands already permanently preserved, either through county, state, local, federal preservation projects. And that could be open space, it could be preserved farmland, it could be historic resources. We have our local priority areas, which it's kind of hard to see, but those are the brown color on the map. And those are areas that most of them were identified as villages or hamlets or town centers in the state development redevelopment plan. But the towns really didn't want a lot of investment or a lot of change in those areas. They wanted those areas to remain vibrant and more investment in those areas, but not necessarily that would change a sense of place, not encouraging a lot of intensive redevelopment, but make sure those remain vital, remain vibrant communities. And then we have alternative growth areas and our limited growth areas, and that's areas of the county that don't have public water and sewer, where larger lot residential growth is envisioned to occur. Not that, also, that's going to be areas served by septic systems and not for public sewer. So the lower intensity development areas of the county. And when we did this working one-on-one with each of our 21 municipalities, using the state plan as a guide, but also using county plans as well as local plans and other regional plans like the Highlands Master Plan, the NJTPA, the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority's regional plan, to make sure that we are aligning all the policies at the different levels of government. So really what the goal of this is to support regional, local smart growth and preservation, economic development, sustainability, resiliency issues at all levels of government, really that tactical alignment of land use, infrastructure preservation plans and policies, really to show that investment decisions are guided by the county investment framework map. And most importantly, looking at conveying a clear message regarding local and regional land use priorities to both the public and private sectors, and really highlighting the areas of the county where everyone would like to see growth occur, and in areas of the county where we like to see preservation and limited development occur. So that the advantage of this, it really supports and fosters that collaboration amongst all levels of government, very similar to the concepts of the state plan. And really, this is a great example of how a county-led collaborative planning effort could lead, show how the state plan, state development, redevelopment plan can be implemented not only at the county level, but the municipal level. This builds off a lot of good work that our planning partners have done over the years. I have to give our Board of County Commissioners and our planning board a lot of credit. They are really value planning and really see the value in engaging in this type of work and being proactive to make sure we're creating the best possible place for our residents and our businesses to invest in, to live in, and grow in. And really, this is really grounded by really GIS data. When that map was created, you can see the difference between the 1987 version and the 2014 version. We really used a whole set of a wide range of GIS data layers to create that map, and we actually mapped it to the parcel level. So, and worked with our towns to say, these are areas that we think meet this very, criteria that we developed in consultation and collaboration with those towns when we developed the criteria for the different growth areas and preservation areas, and then applied that and then worked to make sure that those areas were mapped consistent with what the county wanted to see, but also what our municipal partners want to see. So there are areas in the county that met the criteria for being a priority growth investment area. But if the town didn't want to show it that way, we defer to the town. So really aligning different policies and plans at different levels of government, really that high level of consistency, which we hope when we go through the state plan cross acceptance process in the coming months, that really there is a strong alignment between state policies, county policies, and local policies. And we use that work not just when we create the map, so it didn't, the investment framework in that work, not to sit on the shelf and not be implemented, but we used it to inform our county comprehensive economic development strategy. Really, we looked at, the investment framework complemented the SEDS to give geographical location for where those investments that the county and our partners deemed important, to give a geographic context to those and where those should occur. And then we used a lot of funding over the years from the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority to do our supporting priority investment work. And really what that work was doing was we looked at the growth areas in the county, working one-on-one with our municipalities, identifying alternative land use and transportation investment scenarios for those growth areas to kind of do what-if planning on behalf of the towns, using these grant funds to really further the implementation of the planning concepts and policies that were in not only local plans, but county plans. And this is just a few examples of that work where, the map on the left is we worked with Raritan Borough. We identified a redevelopment area of an underutilized and vacant shopping center and came up with a couple different mixed use scenarios that would help inform any future planning the town was doing on those sites. We looked at some greenway connections and bicycle and pedestrian connections to help revitalize their Main Street corridor. The map on the right is a map of Manville. And we looked at how we could take the Lost Valley neighborhood, which everyone is probably familiar with. When there's flooding in Manville, that's the neighborhood that gets is always featured on the news. So the boroughs had a policy of trying to buy out, as long as the county buying out some of those properties and relocating them out of the floodplain. But as you know, there's out of the couple hundred houses that are there, about 100 have been bought so far. And those lots, instead of becoming a maintenance headache of something the town has to mow and maintain those vacant lots, creating a park and really turning that negative feature in the town into a positive one by creating a Lost Valley Nature Park, which, you know, restoring the floodplain, adding some passive recreation opportunities and some open space in a fairly highly developed borough, to create an amenity that, you know, for people could, you know, come and spend the afternoon, walk through the park, and then spend money on Main Street by shopping the local restaurants and so on. So the work that we did, the borough was able to use that and get a transportation alternative program grant to do the first phase, and they secured over $800,000 to do that first phase that really implement this plan, the concept that the county worked with them to develop. So we've really tried to make sure that planning work we've been doing over the years leads to real projects and doesn't sit on the shelf. I know I've said that a couple of times now, but the idea is that we can show the value of being in alignment with the state plan and county plans to help advance your local planning priorities is really key to making this work successful. And here's just another example where we looked at an area in Franklin Township to look at how to create some additional connections and foster some redevelopment of underutilized office properties and creating more of a Main Street 24-hour corridor in that area to allow us to better serve it with public transit routes. And we also worked with our partners in Bedminster Township to relook at how the AT&T campus, the old Longline headquarters, could be repurposed. So we looked at that in our phase 3 of our supporting priority investment work. We took and came up with some mixed use concepts for that site. And then the borough, the township was very interested in moving forward on that. So we were able to secure a Highlands grant to do the detailed master plan amendment and zoning ordinance. And then we created the new zoning to support a life science or high technology hub, really look at advanced manufacturing, building off the county strengths in the life sciences. And we've been working with them since to help promote the redevelopment of the site and facilitating meetings with the state agencies. This work was also used to, when Bedminster Township was going through the plan endorsement process. And this work helped support the addition of the AT&T campus into their Bedminster Village Center designation, so we can make sure that the site was in the growth area and the county is one of our priority growth investment areas, but also now aligned with the state plan to open up optional funding opportunities, and especially funding opportunities through the Economic Recovery Act of 2020, you know, for both the Grow New Jersey and the Aspire program. So there again is an example of trying to align local and county priorities with state priorities. We did our walk, bike, hike Somerset County study, and that was really to build off making interconnections and promoting some multimodal transit opportunity and transportation opportunities in the county. We integrated this with our preservation plan, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, but we really used some of the multimodal concepts that were in the state development redevelopment plan are very consistent with what we're trying to do with our walk, bike, hike study. And really we use the walk, bike, hike study to advance the state planning priorities, but implementation of our circulation element, our complete streets policy, our preservation plan, looking at tourism and creative placemaking opportunities to foster some economic development opportunities in the county, but also aligning with Healthier Somerset and the county's health improvement plan. As you can see, we've been working very diligently to make sure all these different planning efforts are aligned and consistent with the state plan, using that as kind of the North Star, and then with the goal of hoping that the increased consistency and conformance to those plans open up funding opportunities, as well as improving state agency implementation and hopefully not running into roadblocks with state agencies if we can show that we're consistent with the state plan. In 2020, in May of 2022, we adopted the county's preservation plan, which was an update of the county's farmland preservation plan, our open space master plan, and the first time we created a historic preservation element. tied together with an overall preservation plan that ties these all together. The idea is they all build off each other, but also incorporate the county investment framework map and state planning principles and concepts into our preservation plan. So in these preservation plans, we're not also talking about the typical preservation opportunities, but we're also talking about tourism and economic development. Part of my mantra over the years has been that the county has made investments in preserving farms, open space, and historic preservation and historic resources, and how we can leverage those investments to generate other economic activity through tourism, helping celebrate the 250th anniversary of the country coming up in a few years, and really tying that together, but making sure that the county investment framework map of the master plan is woven into all the functional areas of the county's master plan. And this is just a couple of the objectives, if you look, are very similar to a lot of the concepts in the state plan and some of the other regional planning efforts that we've been doing over the years. And also I should say this is the first of its kind in the state, if not the country, where all three preservation plans are done in a collaborative and at the same time, and really that coordination is very unique. But this collaboration really is equal results. If we do plans and they just sit on the shelf and are not consistent with other larger regional plans, then it's the likelihood of implementation is less. So, through this effort, using the state plan as a guide, we outlined a consensus vision for the county's future. We really integrated local county regional plans with the state development redevelopment plan through that collaborative planning efforts that we've done. We've created a lot of resources to inform local decision makers to help them when they're dealing with, issues of redevelopment or preservation or supporting economic development or revitalizing, either a downtown or a commercial corridor. Making sure it's consistent with county and state plans gives a greater likelihood of getting funding, from the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority by having, their project prioritization criteria take into account state planning areas and county plans. So by aligning them, hopefully those projects move to the top of the queue for funding. And it's really led to strengthen the linkages between all our county master plan elements, as well as, and I think this is the more important one, it really gave a lot of resources to our municipalities, and they've taken the work that we've done and updated their master plan, and zoning ordinances have been updated and changed to implement some of the planning concepts that we developed for them. And by doing it through this more regional county approach, it was kind of an outside voice giving the towns resources and information to help and kind of use those as trial balloons to see how they're received. And a lot of the work we've done has been advanced. There's been a whole slew of master plan and zoning changes. The work that we've done with Bedminster is another great example. And there's other towns that have changed their zoning that we've worked with and served on as non-voting members of redevelopment advisory committees and so on, to really make sure there's that level of coordination. And then we've really leveraged the monies that we received for the towns to receive additional grant resources. So there's been a lot of municipal projects through various state agencies and grants through DEP or NJAC, New Jersey DOT or the NJTPA. If we can say that that organization's planning money funded this, and now we're actually implementing this with projects. That's really what that planning funds at the NJTPA are really designed to do. But, like I said, Manville's gotten that TAP grant. There's many towns that have gotten transit village designations built off this work, or other grants to, complete streets grants and other reforestation and park improvement projects saying they're consistent with the county plan by design is also then consistent with the state plan. So when we launch the cross acceptance process, when the plan is hopefully released on May 1st, we really want to build off a lot of this previous planning work we've done to inform the state planning process. We're currently developing our county cross acceptance work program. The county planning board will serve as the negotiating for Somerset County, like we've done in the previous rounds of cross acceptance. Our commissioners will be taking action on that resolution shortly. Since we have a lot of very good work relationships with our towns, we've asked them if they would rather us serve as the negotiating entity other than the Highlands Council municipalities. So we're working with them. I've already had one town tell me yes, that they will rather that we be the negotiating entity for them and not the Highlands Council. We are going to have a whole series throughout the cross-acceptance process of outreach and coordination meetings. We hold a quarterly planning partners forum where we invite all our local planning partners, planning board members at the municipal level, local governing bodies, as well as the Chamber of Commerce and our TMA, RideWise, or Transportation Management Agency, and other interested planning partners like United Way and so on and so forth. And we have these quarterly meetings where we share ideas and talk about different potential joint efforts, as well as sharing them within grant opportunities and so on. So they're very well attended. We always have more than half of our towns attending, at least a minimum of half our towns attending these meetings. And we have our first one of the year next week, and the whole meeting is dedicated to talking about the cross-acceptance process and what the responsibilities and roles of the county will be and what their roles will be. We talk about the state planning process at almost every county planning board meeting. We'll have regional meetings when we did in the past when we did cross-acceptance. We kind of broke the county to north, central, south and met with those municipalities as a group because they really share some of the same planning issues and concerns. We also will have individual meetings with our towns as well as needed, as well as individual meetings with other concerned planning partners. There's a couple of groups that are looking for some special resource designation changes in the state plan to the state plan map. And really, we're taking a total office approach to cross-acceptance. So the entire planning team will be working on different components of the state plan and doing the comparison reviews. And then we'll also provide any technical assistance to all our planning partners, as we've always done over the years. So if it requires one-on-one meetings or multiple meetings, we'll do that to make sure this is a success, because we are advocating for their engagement in the state planning process because it's important. It will help them advance their local priorities, but also we want, the state plan is supposed to make sure there's consistency amongst all these planning efforts. That also, in our mind, also means state agencies. The state agencies really need to be following the state plan. The municipalities and counties are expected to. They should as well. And we really want to make sure that state plan and state agency functional plans align with the state plan, so we don't have this disconnect when the towns that are doing good regional planning and good local planning try to move these efforts forward. They're not stymied by inconsistent policies at state agencies. So, but also making sure state agencies are not making investments to encourage growth in areas that the towns or the counties don't want. Or also make sure the investments are going in the right places to spur and support local development and redevelopment efforts and economic development efforts. So I hope I've kind of shown how the state plan can be used by the county to really advance not only a county's goals, but municipal goals as well. And that alignment, that tactical alignment of counties, local and state plans really can provide some success. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone? Well, first of all, thank you, Walter and Donna. That was very informative and educational, and I greatly appreciate it. And I will encourage you, I'm biased, but I would encourage you, if you haven't visited downtown Somerville, it's been remarkable to see its transformation over the past, really 20 years, particularly the last 10 years. And I attribute that a great deal to Walter's leadership. It's an incredible. You go down there on a Friday or Saturday night, and there's muscle cars, there's people outside, there's bars, restaurants. Blocking off Division Street was genius, back in the day. So again, just would again strongly encourage you to visit that. So I do have a question from, who would have thought that Mark Pfeiffer would have a question? So this is to Donna. Are there any discussions of digital zoning maps? Oh, Donna, you answered, Donna. Okay.
Well, I answered him. Mark and I are working on trying to digitize all of the zoning maps to maybe be able to do some kind of consistency review. I don't think there's enough time to cover that here. It's something we'd love to do. We would encourage counties. Some counties have digitized their maps with their municipalities. Others don't necessarily have the resources to do it. We would love to be able to do that. Not sure we'd be able to get that into the plan, but yeah, we'd love to, we would encourage that. And if any county wants to do that, please contact us and we'll talk about the project that I'm working on with Mark.
Great. Thank you, Donna. Any other questions?
I just want to touch on two topics that really weren't part of the presentation. One is I've heard from two separate areas that some municipalities are confusing the requirements in the new affordable housing legislation with what we're doing in cross acceptance. Basically, what we've heard is that municipalities think that our office and the commission are doing, compiling the obligation and that we're delegating that to the counties. That is not correct. And so I wanted to set the record straight here. DCA is responsible for doing the obligations based on the methodology that's in A4. We are working closely with them to make sure that it's coordinated, but DCA is responsible for developing those obligations, and they will be doing that. And the only time that we are, and it's not even a delegation, but I think they're confusing that statement of delegation to the counties to the cross acceptance negotiating entity role. So I just wanted to clarify that. And the other thing is I had a request from one of the counties to see if we can develop a training program on how best to utilize the state plan to develop good land use practices locally. I mean, I could talk about that sort of, and I can just keep going, but we are thinking about, once we get this plan underway, to develop some kind of training program so municipalities can understand how to utilize the state plan concepts in interpreting that into their master plans. So if anybody is interested in that, please let me know.
I would just add, there's not, Somerset County has done a lot, but there's many other counties that have done similar type of work, and that, as the former president of County Planners Association, I think county planning can really provide a lot of value, and there's a lot of good resources at the county planning board level, and I agree with Donna 100%. It's an underutilized resource. So you can see what we've done, and there's numerous other examples throughout the state of other counties doing similar type of work that, with investment in some of time and effort, the county planning boards can do a lot of good things.
Yeah, that was thank you, Walter. Thank you, Donna. It doesn't look like there are any other questions. So thank everyone for joining us today. And again, we will make sure to make this available online on our website, and we'll email it to everyone who participated today. But again, just wanted to take a minute, thank Walter and Donna for doing a terrific job, and Angela for making my life very easy in managing this virtual workshop. So thank you and have a great day. Our next free virtual workshop is set for July. We don't have a topic yet. So if you have any ideas, let me know. And we hope to see you at our conference in 2 short weeks too. Take care.